Greetings, my fellow free will sovereign thinkers. Thank you for tuning to LL3 Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful realms of planet Earth. Today's date is Thursday, September 25th, 2025. This is episode 1899. What's an American? And the day I learned why you need a gun. Before proceeding, you can find me on multiple social media sites and podcast channels. Just type in Looky Luck number 3, Looky Luck Roman number 3 with 3 eyes, or the Looky Luck Roman number 3 podcast. Furthermore, if any questions, comments, recommendations, all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use Decorum. Hit me via email to ll3.podcast@proton.me. If you want to donate, go to PayPal or me or cash.app/look number 3. If you're doing a little crypto love, follow me on Steemit. I'm there at LL number 3-podcast. Oh my goodness. See all the media manipulation, friction, civil war, war in this group, war in that. Charlie Kirk's an asshole. All of these beaker memes, wasteless, weak stuff. Believe their team is better than yours. When you folks are gonna learn, stop playing the herd conformity game. Is a big turnoff. Definitely is. And I know there's even talks of claims too about the Charlie Kirk assassination was a hologram, fake, never happened, allegedly. So, well, how I look at it, in my honest viewpoint, based on all the merits and stuff I examine the best I can, and so forth, I do see as a false flag event. And the suspect they may have, I question in good faith, because a lot of things are occurring, and of course, I do understand he was a tool, but like I said before, Mr. Kirk has questioned a few things, and his donators don't like that. So it's a big controversy in a lot of areas. Some people still believe the Mossad was involved, Israel intelligence and all that. They got the tyrannical attributes as well. So it's a lot bigger than what it is. So that's how I see it. And don't be an expert. Don't go around. I don't want to hear the beaker and it's so pathetic and disgusting. Just keep your mouth shut. You have the right to speak your mind, but use some finesse. Don't use these juvenile memes from those stupid faction slave sites. You know, I see them on both ends. It's hilarious. Like, oh, the Democrats were all for slavery, so we went to war between the states because of slavery. You better start really doing a little homework instead of what the government schools are teaching you and the public universities, private universities. Go a little further in what they teach. And you thank me later. I'm not a know-it-all myself, but it just really dumbfounds me, especially on my demographics. I can see a good amount of people out there are pretty damn delusional, and gun control and all that, and suppressing free speech is like I told before. Our duty is to protect our natural rights. What do you call it, the Bill of Rights culture, but it's our natural rights. They're not privileges, so keep your mouth shut. I'm just tired of the juvenile rhetoric. So, without further ado, I'm not going to go up and over, but I like these two commentaries or viewpoints from the Epoch Times. And this one here is called What's an American? It's written by Jeffrey Tucker, if I'm correct. He is from the Brownstone Institute. Let's see what it says here on his commentary. A European reporter interviewing me and asked a question. I've heard many times in the past, how is it that Americans are so passionate about holding the powerful to account for their actions? Why is America so far ahead in understanding the depredations of the ruling class? Why do they believe that their beliefs and actions can make a difference in changing things? As he explained, people in Europe are more likely to just accept things as they are and have largely given up on the idea of fundamental change. What's more, they are more likely to accept orthodoxies and dish out by elites and are extremely slow to develop, much less express incredulity toward them. Americans, on the other hand, seem deeply suspicious of power and seem to take every assertion from above with a grain of salt. They look for dark motives in the statements of all big shots, whether the government or large corporations. Also, America seems to breed activist moments that are determined to make change happen. Why is this? Thinking about this, I don't think there's a simple answer to this question. Americans believe that freedom is their birthright. Anyone who is plotting to take it away is regarded as a thief or an enemy. It has been this way since colonial times. It remains this way today. It's not always well applied or expressed, and the impulse can be manipulated. To be sure, it also ebbs and flows, but it is the philosophical infrastructure of everything that goes on in public life. This is not an illusion or some vain expression of patriotic hubris. It is a true statement of who we are and the deep history of how the United States went from an impulsive experiment in self-government to become the world leader in innovation, prosperity, and intellectual achievement by the end of the 19th century. 100 years later, most of the world saw the U.S., the idea of freedom and democracy for all, as a silly effort destined to fail. By the 1890s, everything had changed. The world looked to the United States as a model of the future. It had proven itself like an enterprise that gone from a garage startup to become a multinational behemoth. The trauma of the Civil War of 1861 struggled to preserve the Union and end the blight of slavery that had always contradicted its founding principles. That war was a national trauma of the worst sort, wrecking families, communities, and confidence. But as the years passed after the peace, a cultural consensus emerged that its purpose was ultimately to perfect the American idea of freedom. The later struggles of civil rights partook of the same spirit. Freedom is the lifeblood of the whole of the American idea. You can spend an afternoon listening to important lectures about hypocrisies and exceptions, the treatment of the native population, the role of slavery, the brutal experiments in eugenics and prohibition, the financial rackets and corruptions of industry, the grim war and foreign exploitations. All of that is true. Somehow the single idea of freedom as the dominant theme emerges from all this muck and survives in the American imagination. Consider that we celebrate our 250th birthday on July 4th, 2026. It is a specific day, the day on which the founders issued the Declaration of Independence. It said that all men are created equal with the rights of liberty, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Just to let you know, men is synonymous to humanity. Okay, so that's how they wrote. That's the lingo. So all you females and women out there, don't sweat it. I'll continue on. The statement is the most important today of politics. It inspires people the world over today. Note that the document was purely aspirational. America was not yet an independent country. Getting that required a war, not one the Americans welcome, but one they are willing to fight. Nor is the birthday marked as a day of ratification of the U.S. Constitution. That is a less foundational document than the Declaration. The new government born with the Constitution was not designed to be perfect. It was designed to be self-correcting. The method, checks and balances, strict legal limits on what government can do, and power to the people. The legislature was bicameral, cameral, to give maximum representation to the people in their states, plus power was ultimately devolved to the states to become laboratories of democracy. That's such a bad word, folks. I'm sorry. That's a one-vote system. Now, I'll continue on. Most of governments around the world thought the whole scheme was unworkable. The American experience proved otherwise. It permitted freedom to the people to work out their own lives, to pursue happiness on their own. This trust in the people to make good on the promise of freedom worked out beautifully. It became the model for the world, not one of perfection, but one that was correctable because the people were ultimately in charge. There are certain principles on which Americans have never compromised. They believe strongly in freedom of religion. It is the First Amendment in the Bill of Rights. It was the first country ever to make this idea central to the governing regimes. When the churches were closed in 2020 by government edict, I knew for sure that we would experience a revolution of sorts. You simply cannot do that, period. And I agree, but there's people out there, you can shut down the church and go to COVID. Well, just say, hey, I'm a bender for Bob to the state. When they say, tread on me, I go, walk, please, walk all over me. Be a doormat to them. But I say no. I'll continue on. Another central principle is freedom of speech. When the presidential administration began working with third parties and social media companies to throttle and cancel accounts, I knew it was an only matter of time before people figured it out. They would say absolutely not. No presidential administration in America can get away with closing churches and violating free speech rights. It is not only because it is contrary to law, it's because Americans as people will not put up with it. It runs contrary to our national DNA. Freedom, especially in these two spheres, is part of our birthright. No one can take them away long term and expect it to get away with it. The freedom at the core of the American idea bore other virtues like independence, religious passion, love of family and community, vibrant enterprise. In the old days, we could add other traits like hard work, thirst, loyalty, and respect for tradition. Those are less in evidence these days for a variety of reasons, mostly tracing to public schooling, government expansion, and loose credit. But they can be rebuilt and will be, provided we have the freedom to do so. That's part Americans will never surrender. It's usually a mistake to imagine that one's own country is exceptional, but in this case, the United States isn't. It is, in fact, that. The U.S. is leading the world again in a populist revolt against the managerial class that has seized control of the machinery of government in most countries. How this struggle turns out here will determine the outcome of many similar struggles around the world. This is because America is deeply blessed with a unique history and understanding. We forget that at our peril. And you know what? You can say he is correct. And of course, the United States have their fallacies, their issues, pothole moments, and etc. But we learn and better ourselves, not stagnate, complain, and whine. Engage, petition, exercise those natural rights. When they try to violate that, it is void and without force. There are laws in your state constitution and U.S. Constitution about impairing contracts, post-factual laws, all that good stuff. But it is true. And of course, it's time to decentralize again. When the feds know best, it turns to manure. It's individuals like you and I, regardless of race, color, creed, etc., and gender, we go on. We got great gifts and a story to tell. So that's why I say, exercise those natural rights, folks. You won't regret it later. Now to tell people, the more you know about your rights, the more you execute it, the less you fear. When more people do it, they get scared crapless. That's the state government, whether it's federal, state, or local. All right, I'm going to do my final segment, so stay tuned. All right, so I'm going to do one more here. Came from the Epoch Times. Once again, another viewpoint. Says here, today I learned why you need a gun on a farm. Self-defense, hunting, and animal husbandry are good reasons to own a farm, but they are not the reason we have the Second Amendment. And this is written by Molly Englehart. So, let's see what she has to say here. The last day we didn't have a gun on the farm. I watched two sheep bleed out while my husband stood empty-handed. That moment ended my illusions about guns forever. It was 2018. I was nursing my baby on the porch when my uncle came racing in a golf cart toward the property where our sheep were grazing. I knew something was wrong and followed with my children and assistant. What we found was devastation. 2 German shepherds had torn through the entire flock, killing for sport, not food. 2 sheep were still alive, bleeding out in the dirt. My husband, who had grown up in Mexico, where owning a gun is almost impossible, looked at me with frustration. We had no firearm to end their suffering. We had to knock on our neighbor's doors to ask to borrow one. This was unfair to the suffering sheep and unfair to my husband to be put in that position. That was the last day we didn't have a gun on the farm. Well, one of the last days since California, there's a 10-day waiting period after background checks. I hadn't always seen guns this way. I was raised in the world of magical thinking, the belief that guns are necessary, that if we simply put them down and loved one another, peace would follow. I was taught that Jesus was 100% nonviolent, that turn the other cheek meant absolute pacifism, and that Christ-like consciousness was best reflected through unconditional love. And at a spiritual level, I still believe that this is the highest idea for humanity, but we are not there yet. I grew up in Ithaca, New York, went to college in Los Angeles, and ran a vegan restaurant for 15 years in the heart of LA. In that world, guns were not tools. They were threats. My husband still resents me for forbidding him to pick up his handgun after the 10-day background check was over. To this day, he jokes that I owe him a handgun. And the truth is, I do owe him a handgun. I was unreasonable. But life on the farm changed everything. Since that day, firearms have become part of daily life, for putting down an injured animal, for harvesting animals for my family's consumption, for defending livestock against predators, for hunting, for target practicing, and yes, for self-defense. And if I'm completely honest, I still flinch at the sound of a shot. I still carry old programming from my childhood, fear and anxiety, the belief that guns are inherently bad, but I am retraining myself and raising my children with a different understanding. My children are learning that firearms are not toys, not symbols of power, but tools. They see the respect we give them, the responsibility we require around them, and the discipline it takes to use them correctly. I want them to grow up without the fear that I carried until adulthood, but also without the recklessness that so many parents worry about when guns are in the home. The middle ground is respect and training, because the quiet truth is this: self-defense, hunting, and animal husbandry are good reasons to own a firearm, but they are not the reason we have the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment was not written to protect deer hunting. It was written to protect citizens against tyranny. Our founding fathers had just escaped it. They put free speech first, and right after that came to the right to bear arms, not because they loved sport, but because they knew government cannot be trusted with unchecked power. People love to say, well, the military has jets and tanks. That may be true, but it misses the point. Civilians in this country own nearly 400 million firearms, about 99% of all guns in America. U.S. military, by comparison, has around 4.5 million small arms. They don't have enough tanks and jets to take us out at the same time. That enormous civilian stockpile of arms is the only thing standing between us and the last shred of freedom guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution. It was written into the Second Amendment for a reason. And here's the other thing that we don't think about often enough. The government should have no ability to infringe on our Second Amendment rights. The very purpose of the Second Amendment is that we, the people, maintain defense against tyranny. It is against the government itself that we are meant to hold arms as a guarantee of freedom. It is utterly counterintuitive to allow the very institution our guns are meant to protect us from to also have the authority to strip away those rights in any shape or form. Today, digital IDs, programmable dollars, and mass surveillance are all on the horizon. My question is, Do we trust the government and criminals to be the only ones with guns? Because, make no mistake, criminals will always have them regardless of legality. This is where I see a strange contradiction in our culture. Many who believe the government is corrupt, unfair, or even tyrannical are the same people calling for only the government to have guns. Some even compare current leaders to Hitler, yet want to disarm the citizens who might resist such tyranny. If you think the system is stacked against you, why would you choose to be defenseless? And I remember it was the Nazi Weapons Act of 1938. And there was some claims that a diplomat, a German diplomat from the Nazis, got taken out by a Zionist operative, and that's where they had one of the reasons why they started using the Nazi Weapons Act. So there's a lot of claims in these things, but I digress. I believe with all my heart that unconditional love is the answer, that Christ is the answer, and that being the best parent you can be, creating what I call the other holy trinity, father, mother, child, is our strongest defense against evil. Love and family are the foundation, but I also want the secondary defense of firearms of a citizenry of strong men and women willing to defend their country and their homes. I don't trust the government, no matter which party is in charge. Power corrupts, and no man or institution is above temptation. My faith is not in politicians. My faith is in God. And while love may be the highest calling until we reach that place of perfect peace, I will not lay down the tools that keep my family and my freedom safe. Yeah, she has a thing. She does represent. She's a regenerative farmer and rancher at Sovereignty Ranch. That's pretty cool. Of course, remember, all those folks out there want tougher gun laws after the horrific event of Charlie Kirk. You're not thinking. You're being dumbed down, foolish, pathetic, and you want to be safe. Leave all your security eggs in the hands of the government and military, right? Well, explain to me this. How come at least 170 million people were slaughtered in genocide around the world in the 20th century alone, at the least? And many of them were from different ethnic groups and religious beliefs, etc. You better start learning the history before talking about you want tougher firearm laws or give up your freedom for security, because you don't deserve either, based on what Benjamin Franklin has to say about that. If we don't learn from the past, my friends, we're damned to repeat it. Any questions? Look what happened in Rwanda in 1994. Around 800,000 to 1 million people, mostly Tutsis, were slaughtered by thugs from the Hutu government, that represents the Hutu government, And many of them were macheted. And what were one of the things they've done? They seized the firearms from the people, and they got taken advantage of. If anyone out there that supports tougher firearm laws, gun control, or ban firearms, I got 3 questions. Are the police obligated to protect you? Number 2, do you trust the government? And 3, which groups of citizens you want to see enslaved or terminated? Anyone have the courage to answer those questions? I would greatly appreciate it. Never forfeit your natural rights, my friends. Doesn't matter where you come from. It's not a privilege at all. And that will be it. Thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share throughout your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, recommendations, all that good stuff, whatever you do, please use the corn. Hit me via email to ll3.podcast@proton.me. I will leave the articles on the page. You can check it out for yourselves. And if you want to donate, go to PayPal.me or cash.app/look3. If you want to follow me on Steam, give me a little crypto love. I'm there at LL3-podcast. If you want to support the Epoch Times, subscribe, donate. That'd be pretty cool. Like I tell everyone, please observe responsibly. Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that the Maniac Resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading the love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.